Inventory of semi-natural landscapes. The information listed in this presentation is what information you need when you write a management plan for your semi-natural grassland or meadow. First of all, you need some basic information about the area, the type of biotope, and the history. The type of biotope may be very tricky because one area may have different types, different biotypes in it. The site location, so some kind of ID, block ID, GPS for coordinates for the area would be good, and a basic map sheet where you have been then marking out what area you are making the inventory about or management plan for. You need the information of the owner, so the name and the contact information if it's a farm. You need also the farm register number. A brief description of the site, what kind of trees grow there in the area, what kind of habitat type is it, if you can define it, and are there, for example, stones or cliffs or any big trees or any other significant things about the area. You should also record the usage history of the area, and if you don't know it, you can make interview with older people, perhaps talk to neighbors or village residents. There have been carried out inventories national-wide on all former county levels. So find out if there has been made an inventory of your area before, and check in that publication if your area is there, because then you get a lot of the basic information already from this inventory. Natura 2000 is a network in European Union. In May 1992, the governments of the European communities adopted legislation in order to protect the most seriously threatened habitats and species across Europe. So Natura 2000 is a network of nature protection areas in the territory of the European Union. It's made up of special areas of conservation and special protection areas designated under the Habitats Directive and the Bird Directive, respectively. The network includes both terrestrial and marine protected areas. The Nature 2000 network covers more than 18% of the European Union's land area and more than 7% of its marine area in 2022. International value inventories that were made in 1990s, they used value classes. Areas were designated to be of national value, provincial value, or local value. There is also areas marked with K. It means that they are eligible for restoration. For the moment, they do not meet the criteria for a traditional landscape, but they have a potential to rise to a higher criteria when restoration and care has been carried out. And of course, there are those areas that are not traditional value areas and new environment or naturally open environments. The provincial and local areas can be still divided into a plus area or a minus area. So, into what value class will the areas then go? The valuation is affected by the long continuity of traditional use, grazing or moving, and it's not eutrophicated, so there is not too much nutrients in the area. Representative vegetation and species formed as a result of traditional use, so if there are some very nice meadow plants, indicator plants, endangered and rare species that have benefit from traditional livestock, It can also be species on old trees and decaying trees in the area. Or, for example, maybe some lichen growing on a rocky stone or rocky mountain in the area. A diverse biological species. So maybe there is a lot of different plants, and maybe the area have been moved, and then this diversity, it reflects the long use of the area. There may be also presence of representative habitat type groups or habitat types that are most endangered. You can order a plant inventory from an expert or do it yourself, for example by taking photos of the plants and trying to recognize them. There are a lot of good internet resources, and also Google Lens is automatically trying to identify plants. An animal inventory can also be ordered from an expert, or you can do it yourself by taking photos. Small mammals and birds are easier to photograph and try to identify yourself. Inventories of insects can be of added value, but these are not optional. So usually the authorities, they are mainly interested in what kind of plants you have in your area. Do you have rotten wood, died tree woods, and hollow wood? So you could also map these things in your area. You can also make an inventory of rocks and stones in the area. Tree and scrub inventories could also be added. In your management plan, you need to define what kind of area you have. When looking at the area, then it's maybe very difficult to decide that what kind of type of meadow or habitat is there, especially if you are not professional in the area and you have only normal farming skills and normal basic education from your school. But it is easy to, for example, see if some parts of the area are rocky with stones. So you could try to estimate how many are rocky areas here. And if it's pasture, it has been used for grazing, then you could also estimate that how much is forested area here. And you could then in your inventory just write that other meadow, the rest you don't even have to know what type of meadow it is. This we can see described in example 1. And in example 2, we have then a little bit in a different way, but also here it's pretty easy. You could say that 20% is barren rock meadow if it is rocky, and 20% dry hay meadow. You also recognize when it's very dry, there is little soil and the plants are very short. And if some area is totally wild with a lot of plants and maybe you could even see nettles, that there is kind of too many nutrients, then it's an overgrown meadow. And if the rest is forested and used as a pasture, then it could be forest pasture. This example 2, if a biologist would have been making the determination over the area, it could look like in details like here on the page to the right side. First it said 20% barren rock meadow, and then it is listed the main plant species which they are, and in Latin. And in this way we know more exactly what type it is when we can see which are the plants growing there. We don't have to list all the plants. Usually we list a few of those meadow plants or those plants you find in the meadow indicator list. Making an inventory of plants identifies identifying the plants in an area. It can very well be learned independently by photographing and identifying plants with the help of books and internet, asking friends who you know are skilled in plants. I have been doing this with my own meadow for many years already. And the list is nowadays slowly growing. Slowly I notice or learn some new plants. So it's a long process. And when you manage a semi-natural area, it changes also. And some years you may get some plants and then you will for 20 years not see it anymore. Do the area have some special values? Is it, for example, a part of a Nature 2000 network? Or is there some other special value it may have? It may be also a cultural value. Maybe somebody have been living here, some person that have had a great influence or did something special for the local community. That's also a special value. But it could also be different trees, nice trees, odd looking trees, junipers that look like a tree with one stem, they are under protection. On the right side here you can see an oak, an old oak, and actually behind it there is also a very old spruce. Both of those trees could be mentioned in your inventory. Are there ancient remains in the area? Maybe you know already that there is a grave or on sacrificial stone or something else from an ancient time in your pasture, then that should be written in your inventory. Maybe you don't know, but you think that maybe there is something. Also, that could be written in your inventory. If there are ancient remains, you have to be careful not to use fire in the restoration, as it may destroy further possibilities for archaeological research, and that could also be written into your inventory report. Goal of the management is very important. Write clearly what the goal of the management is. For example, the goal is a sparsely birch-dominated forest meadow. Or, the goal is to bring out the special features of pines and junipers. And to restore rocky meadow and forest pastures. Write that the pasture is fenced into its own block, not together with the cultivated field. Write that animals may not be given additional feed when they graze the national pastures. Tell how you will carry out the restoration of the area, what machineries will be used, what mechanical work will be carried out, how will you take away the wooden material. Do also tell what kind of animals are used for grazing. Mention several species of animal, even if you own only one. So if you're a cattle farm, you should anyway mention that you are going to graze with cattle or sheep or horses, so that it leaves your free hands. There has been cases where, for example, cattle farms had promised to graze with cattle, but then they were not able to take cattle by some reason out to the areas and switch it to sheep, and they got the negative feedback from the authorities. So that's why it's important that we leave it open for yourself to decide afterwards. Well, we are thinking now about the inventory when we make the inventation of the area, and at the same time, you should also start to think about the restoration and the management plan of the area. And in the management plan, you have to write how you are going to carry out the annual management of the area. It's enough actually if you write it on a very upper level, like here. 2004, first thinning clearing. 2025, another thinning clearing and construction of a sheep fence. 2006, the third thinning clearing and first grazing. And then you could also write, for example, that in these years, grazing, minor moving, and possible cleaning clearings after grazing if needed. So on a kind of an upper level, but you have to give information on what will happen in the different years. Make maps and include them to your inventory and also to your management plan. First, you can have a map with the location. It can be you give the geographical coordinates anyway. So the map, it can be like here to the right. You can see with red it is painted, which is the area. And if you have then several areas and you want to make like one management plan, but you have 3 different areas on the farm, then you need to make a different map for each of the areas. And it could be a basic map, 1 to 25,000. And on this, you are then going to define what types of areas there are. For example, tree species, dead trees, stony and rocky hill areas. Here is then an example, and as you can see, this is yes, nearly hand drawn. There are a lot of mapping tools nowadays that you can use to draw this kind of maps. And here you can see that roughly we were looking without any deeper expertise what kind of areas they are. So dry rocky meadow, bushes, juniper meadows, where are they located? And then the overgrown meadow part, where is that? And for the area to the right, here you can see we were writing just like half open area, juniper meadow, and area with bushes. That is totally enough to start with. In this case, we also mapped dead trees and other large trees and stones, and we have marked them also at the map. And this area had also a special feature. Here was a nesting tree for the flying squirrel, and we marked that on the map as well. Google Maps are nice to use, and you can, in my Google Maps, you can also draw lines and borders, and you can also highlight them with different colors, so that will function easy. And in Finland we have also a tool called the Citizen Map site, and from there you also can get nice basic maps, and there is also a small drawing possibility. Photos are important, so are there any old photos of the area? Those are very valuable to add to your inventory. It is also needed to add new photos, and including these general overview photos of the area, so that we can get a nice overview of what kind of biotope this is and what it looks like. Based on these photos, also the professionals could then decide what kind of biotope it is. As a management plan will be attached to the application for your subsidy, then it's a good idea also to add photos of special plants. If there are some meadow plants, then you could take a nice photo of them. And again, those who are educated within biology, they will be able, based on the photo, to decide what kind of plant it is. So nice photos are always welcome. A semi-natural grassland may have also a lot of other things than plants. For example, insects, birds, fungi, and lichen. They are more difficult to recognize who they are, but it's also very valuable perhaps to try to see if something catches your eyes. because many of these are of course in connection also with the plants that are growing in the area, but perhaps your area main management goal would instead be to take care of some kind of an insect or a butterfly and to try to see that that one will thrive in your area.